I'd love to hear about some of the practical applications because obviously AI and ChatGPT is a buzzword going on these days, but I'm always looking for how people are actually applying some of these technologies. So maybe you have any examples, would love to hear that.
Sure. I think in terms of how we are adopting or applying in the industry would be a lot of it, I think, comes on the creative side using your generative AI technologies, etc., which also helps to have those kinds of adaptations. One, in terms of not across the breadth of performance marketing and the channels that you do, but also be able to make changes immediately at much faster rate depending on what resonates or what's in. For example, I'll tell you, I remember there was a few months back, there was this buzz around Waddle, the game that
Hmm.
came out from New York Times, etc. And
Yep.
I remember that how at that time, which is about 2 years back, my client was trying to, they were like, okay, we are going to create an asset to ride on that buzz for Waddle. But it was all manual versus what I have seen how people have adapted and just come up immediately in terms of changing or showing it in that manner where it's what is resonating or like you said, what is the buzzword. At the same time, there is lot of acceptance or rather adoption in doing marketing using the chat GPT as your asset or as your creative.
Yeah.
So I would say it's a marriage of showing adoption of AI, but using the AI tool itself as your asset, as your creative, right? So where you're actually, whatever your message is, you're trying to show that you're typing it in your chat GPT search bar and the message that you want to give is actually an answer that chat GPT gives you, for example, right? That sort of immediate acceptance and riding on that buzz immediately is becoming even more and more applicable by adopting all these new technologies. And which is why I think it goes to the fact that having that having that mindset and having that ability to invest in the right kind of martech to make your performance marketing more I would say resonating to the current affair and current situations is very important.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm testing a bunch of tools for upcoming class, and one that I came across, and you probably have already done this already, is Canva's new magic design. So it's quite cool because you just upload an image and it'll put it in like any format automatically. It'll design it, just throw in an image. So, if you have a product
Exactly.
photo
I
or any
think
of it, it's crazy.
correct. So I think it is an example from there only where I just saw like we didn't do it, but I saw that how an ad for a company was where they were showing, I don't know if it was a mascot or whatever, but basically they had an ad where they were trying to show a dog running towards something, right? And just to, because they were changing their messaging and it's more like an overnight change or next day change. So if you go the manual way, you will send your brief to the creative agency that I want to change this, then they'll come back, they'll have their own tags and everything. It takes time. But I remember that the previous day there was this normal brown colored dog running, and by next day I can't remember what it was exactly, but they basically changed the messaging immediately to a superhero sort, and that same dog just became wearing a red cape,
Yeah,
you know
instantaneously, like you said, it's
so
it's
and which I, like you said also, so I have tried that canvas magic design studio, etc., and it's like you said, you convert it into whatever you can, and it's just matter of seconds actually, right? Now it's not even hours and all. So it's seconds and minutes where one simple photo can be converted into not only that you add elements to the photo, but you can convert that photo into a video or a video into another format completely together. Yeah.
Yeah, creatives is definitely one of them. Another one I'd love to hear your thoughts on because one of the advantages of performance marketing is targeting. How do you think new technologies, AI and such, have impacted how we target through our ads?
So, okay, I think from AI perspective, maybe not so much. Okay, actually, it has both sides. So there's two parts to it. One is because of the cookie-less world that advertising is moving into, with all the securities like what iOS has put in place and all. So a lot of that signal-based audience targeting has gone away or is deteriorating. And that is where the role of whole of this AI, behavior based targeting, which has to be more and more, again, a more and more accurate to be in that sense. And that's how the adoption has to be, is becoming very important, where you make sure that there are limitations now, because people are also, I think people are also more aware, and they will not select that yes you can show me whatever. They will always say no to those security notifications, etc. So that is why I think targeting individuals from that cookie based model originally is now becoming more and more difficult. So as an advertiser, I think it becomes even more important, and to be able to adapt and make use of what is there to best target your audiences, and making sure that it's still targeted enough to your.
Absolutely. One thing on my wish list, and let me know if this exists or if any of the listeners, if this exists. So basically, from a B2B perspective, let's say you have an accountant list. It'd be great to just throw it into AI and have them analyze, okay, 30% of your audience comes from this industry or this market or this, whatever it is, and then give you recommendations on how to target based on inputs for your product, your service, or your brand. I've been trying to crack a way to figure that out to see if it works. I haven't found a
So
solution yet, but yeah.
yeah, but okay, yes, to answer that question directly, I haven't seen or I don't know of if it is there. But yes, it comes to the same point that now that people are adopting AI, etc., I am sure it is not too far when somebody will pick this up. And the same thing that when right now you, to make your search better or to make your social better or to make your display better everywhere and have that journey for a customer, we always do that upload or a sync of API of CRM lists, right? And then you will create those audience lists. But I think even in that audience list, that right now, let's say as a company, that I upload as my CRM list of people who are my subscribers, for example, or my whatever, my customers rather, and then have you create your lists from there, that okay, people who subscribe or lookalikes, etc., etc. But yeah, I think it would be good to know that if I have those 1,000 people, they will say that 30% of this will not respond to your search ads.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
I haven't known, but honestly, I feel this will happen.
If you come across anything, let me know. The other side, which I think the number one question I always get when I'm doing training or teaching, is around tracking and reporting. How do you think,
Mm.
are there any new updates when it comes to how we track and report from a performance marketing point of view?
Any new updates? I
Or
think in
anything
terms of,
effective? Yeah.
yeah, I think in terms of what is out there, I think there is a lot. But the problem is, I feel right now from performance marketing point of view, especially, is because so you have all these, right? You have a Google Stack related platforms that you're marketing on. Then you will have a Meta Stack that you're marketing on. And then similarly, you will have other few stacks. You have a programmatic stack that you'll be probably. The problem right now, I feel, is across everywhere, nobody, all of them don't talk to each other. And which is why having that one conclusive dashboard in that sense, which matches every single number to what it is supposed to be, I haven't seen. Because there will be a dashboard which is able to take everything from, let's say, Google and let's say your source of truth is GA, right? So I think the biggest problem right now is GA itself is not able to match your numbers to what other entity stacks are giving you, right? Like Meta numbers will never be accurate on GA, right? Similarly, to that extent, even DV numbers, which is a Google owned now product itself never tallies with your GA. So the platform numbers do not tally with the source of truth that you use, right? And that's one. And then ultimately having all of that in that proper reporting or tracking dashboard sort. There are lots, like there is Tableau, I know there is Datorama and all of those. There's even, for that matter, Google has its own Looker Studio also. There are these two, three good products there, but I still feel there are limitations because either, let's say Tableau can take everything, right? It will be able to connect through its API to each and every sort of platform that you're using. The problem is if you are tracking your conversions on GA or Campaign Manager or whichever that your source of truth is, the problem is that itself doesn't tally, right? So ultimately the numbers that you get, there is ClickSense also that a lot of companies use. Now, if I'm using ClickSense, if I'm using GA, and then I'm using all my performance marketing based platforms, right? Honestly, I will have different numbers everywhere. And then as a company or as a brand, you just have to come to consensus that which out of these will be our source of truth. You know, that issue is there primarily because I think the competition that all these platforms have with each other, they don't want to share so openly. And they all keep want to develop their own measurement tools, etc. But as an advertiser, I think that struggle is real. And it's an accepted struggle that I know ultimately whatever my source of truth is, whether it's GA, whether it's ClickSense, whether it is ABC, somewhere there is a discrepancy of certain percentage that will always be lost. And which is why as a performance marketer, for me, I think the approach that I keep when I'm trying to evaluate how good is a certain platform for my marketing, I evaluate it based on actual platform numbers. Because by the time they flow into my source of truth, half of it is lost, right? So that source of truth is more for reporting purposes, how your business sees it, what your management wants to see, etc., etc. But from a performance marketer point of view, each platform needs to be one evaluated in its own value, I feel. Second would be, so because a lot of cases, your source of truth is always last click. And it is a given fact, being in the industry for so many, more than a decade, that there are channels that will never give you best results on last click. Meaning they are part of the journey of a customer and they will always remain. And they probably have a higher influence to bring that customer to you in the process of the journey. But when measured on last click, they will never deliver.
Exactly. Next time someone asks, I'm just going to share this video because I get it all the time. And to your point, it's never completely accurate. And I think that's what they're always looking for this holy grail. I'm like, it currently doesn't exist. I know some folks just pick the biggest numbers that pictures them in the best light and uses that as their source of truth. There's no wrong or right way, but I think there's so many other things. Not only the tools not talking to each other, but yesterday in a workshop, we were talking about dark social. If I send you a link via WhatsApp, now presumably you shouldn't be able to track that. So the question is, how do you attribute that? You can't, can you? Not that I know of.
So if you've taken a link and sent me on social, there is a UTM link to it. You can track the UTM, but again, where does it get recorded for your conversion? Because if when you took that link, let's say, but you did not make the conversion, whatever that conversion metrics is, it doesn't have to be a purchase as a conversion, right? Whatever you as a person or as a business are monitoring as a conversion, you were just a visitor, you liked something, and then Joe sent it over WhatsApp to Saumya. Now what Saumya received was the UTM of what Joe had, which is a social UTM, let's say, for example. I go click on that and actually convert. The attribution has probably gone to social now. But was that the channel for me. Or I probably saw it and ultimately I actually converted from search. In that case, the attribution goes to search because on last click, the conversion was on search. But was that actually the channel that helped you? Was that the channel that made a person, influence the person enough to make that decision? And that is where I feel it becomes a little flawed in how we measure our platforms. The which platform is working for me is usually based on your conversion model, and your conversions, especially if they are last click, then channels like social, channel like programmatic, etc., will never be evaluated. They will always seem to not work for you.
Absolutely. So once again, a good reminder for all the marketers out there. So any final tips, anything that's been working particularly well or hasn't been working in the world of performance marketing for you, or maybe what you've seen?
I think too many platforms, too many medium, too many channels that are coming. Like within social world itself, you have, even if I just pick up top channels, right? You have like Twitter, you have Meta, you have TikTok, right? And then you have those local channels like WeChat, Line, etc., that are country specific, local language specific channels. I think too much, and which is where either you get too diluted because there is only certain budget that you have, so you are trying to get everything in that small pot. So either you get too diluted, and then there are multiple out of these channels that will not show you results, or there is too much overlap of the audience also, right? The same audience gets targeted, especially when they're all from different family, right? LinkedIn is one family, Meta will be one, etc., etc. The audience gets targeted. I feel one thing that we can do is define your channels for certain audience group and target that on that channel. So put your budget based on how important that audience is for you on that particular channel. So if TikTok is considered a Gen Z channel and you have a Gen Z product or you want to market Gen Z, concentrate on TikTok more and don't try to be everywhere. Because ultimately we just don't get that efficiencies then.
Yeah, I was going to say, I completely agree. And I think that's something that I teach in class. I'm glad to hear that it's actually being applied in the industry. But I think you're right. I always tell my students less is more, and focusing on, like you said, a specific audience and a specific channel is going to help you be more targeted and probably manage your budget more effectively. I really appreciate you coming on the show and sharing your insights on performance marketing. I found it quite insightful. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And for everyone watching and listening to today's episode, if you're in performance marketing or even interested in performance marketing, check this episode out, share it with your colleagues, your friends, and I'm sure they will find it very insightful as well. So thank you guys so much, and we'll see you on the next episode.